also Sarah Hoagland. We're our Dorf Conservation Fellows from that cohort, and we were on the same group project as well. So I feel like I know Sarah pretty well, and she and Siti asked me to introduce her talk here. So if you don't know Sarah, she's from Placerville, California, and like I mentioned, she graduated last June with a MESM degree from Bren. While she was here, she did a lot of work. She co-founded the student chapter of the Wildlife Society, and she worked a lot with CBER over in Carter Stadium. What does CBER stand for?
Eagle Center for Biodiversity and Ecological Restoration.
There you go. Acronyms are hard to remember. But let's see. Since graduating, Sarah began working with the U.S. Forest Service as a biological scientist at the Southern Research Station Environmental Threat Assessment Center in Asheville, North Carolina, where she was heading up a Wildlife Linkages Project. And she's currently beginning a PhD program in forestry at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. So she said some potential dissertation topics, which I believe she might want to discuss later after this presentation, include a continuation of similar linkage work that she'll be presenting today, or perhaps a comparison of tribal and federal forest management in an attempt to increase the use of traditional ecological knowledge in current wildlife management. So the talk today will be followed by a roundtable discussion from 12:30 to 1:30, led by Sarah in Bren Hall, room 1520. So that discussion will focus on planning and management options for cities of Goleta and Santa Barbara, future Bren CBER projects, and other potential collaborations. And interested faculty, students, and community members are encouraged to attend. So without further ado, Sarah Hoagland.
Great. Well, thanks, Andy, for that fabulous introduction. And I'm really glad to see all you guys here today. And I'm thrilled to be back here in California. We actually drove in from Flagstaff a couple days ago and stopped in San Diego for another conference. So I'm just so happy to be here, and the weather's great, and we checked out the waves this morning, so just happy to be here. But I want to start off first by asking you all to raise your hand. So first of all, who's here from Bren, like a student or faculty or staff member? Bren, okay, cool, okay. And then what about community members? Like open space managers and whatnot. Wow, that's great. Okay, fantastic. All you other folks, what are you guys here for? Just the cool stuff? Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, it's good to see this group come together, because I think it's important that we bring this research to the managers and the people who actually are going to apply it. So I'm really glad to see you all here today with us. I'll be presenting the results from a project we did titled Assessing Habitat Linkages in Coastal Open Spaces. And again, keep in mind, following this, we'll have the group discussion afterwards in 1520. My favorite part about working on this research was I got the opportunity to work with some really fantastic individuals, and I think that they are all very caring, very compassionate, and very concerned about this issue. So with that, I'd like to start off first by saying a lot of thanks. So again, raise your hand if you see your name here in bold. Please raise your hand, nice and high. We want to acknowledge you. There's definitely people here. Lisa's here. Let's see, we've got a couple other volunteers. Megan's here. Okay, so these people really have done a lot of work for us. Lisa, first of all, she and I have been working on this project together for the past year, and she's put me in contact with the right people to get the right data. We had 4 fantastic paid students who helped us out on this project. Lots of volunteers and people who helped out with publicity. And then most importantly, our sponsors too. We were funded by the AS Coastal Fund and the Santa Barbara Foundation. So big thanks to you all. So a little bit of a roadmap today. I'll first go over project background and why this research is so important, and then I'll introduce the project itself, go into the methods, and then I'll finish with some synthesis and recommendations for our project. So the first thing, bears in Santa Barbara. Who even believes this statement? Oh, good. Wow. Okay. Cool. Good. Honestly, when I heard it, I didn't actually really believe it, and I thought it was pretty interesting to hear about try and understand how these animals, okay, so it is true. There have been bear sightings here right around UC Santa Barbara. So I thought it was really interesting to try and figure out how those animals are moving here and why they're even trying to get here. And much of the foresight for this project actually came from a series of meetings where local curators, local wildlife biologists, open space managers came together and actually defined a need for this research. So the Wildlife Linkages Working Group was actually very important in starting off this project. And so since we have all these large animals and even bears in this area, and we are a concerned community about it, I would propose the question, what scenario would you prefer? So this picture here on the left-hand side is actually from critter crossings through the Department of Transportation, and I'm pretty sure this is somewhere up in Montana, but this one's a little bit closer to home, actually in San Luis Obispo County on Cuesta Grade on Highway 101, where they did a pretty similar study to ours where they looked at where animals were crossing Highway 101 in this area, and that's a dead bear, unfortunately, on the side of the road. And then the final image I have over here to the far right is of the Salish Kootenai tribe. This is on their reservation along Highway 93. They installed a lot of wildlife undercrossings for these animals to pass safely across the road. So for these, I think if we're a community who is concerned about this issue, we need to really be moving towards this image on the right, managing for that and trying to understand how we can improve the connectivity of our region. So the relevance, I know a lot of you are probably in this room because you understand why this is an important issue, but I'd like to point out a couple of things to start. A really important paper came out over 10 years ago by Richard Foreman, a professor at Harvard University, who said that 20% of the area in the United States is ecologically impacted by roads. And also, estimates of our human footprint say that we would need 1.5 worlds to sustain our population. And combine these facts with the threat that wildlife face from climate change, and then also from invasive species, and to me, the combination of all of these just spells doom for our wildlife species. So please keep these things in mind, that this is a really important topic to be studying. All the effort put aside to setting aside these natural areas and wildlands and stuff, I think is only so valuable. I think the important thing in addition to this is to make sure that those are all connected to one another. So we help conserve the biological populations that these places are intended for in the first place. And actually Lisa Stratton said it perfectly. She said, keep the food web functioning. So let's try and build this whole network of open spaces. So given that California is a biodiversity hotspot, and here we are in Santa Barbara, a pretty urban area, but we have the mountains in our background, what a great experiment kind of to set up to try and study some of these issues. So some of the previous research that has been done related to this is from the California Missing Linkages Project, and then there was a coastal conception project that John Gallo did pretty recently, where he actually looked at linkages but for the whole coastal region. And so ours is a little bit more fine scale and very management, very application driven. So there has been some previous research, and this is more finer scale stuff.